CCP's Deception of the World. Hello everyone. Today we continue our story from our previous episode on the American idealist Sidney Rittenberg, who was cheated by the CCP and then sent to prison. It was Lee's bad luck, or he had it coming. After his release from prison, Lee Dunbai was assigned to the work in the radio station. Soon after, he married his third wife, Wang Yulin. His first time in prison left him with the after effects of panic. At some point, he would suddenly sweat and panic with fear. In 1958, Anna Louise Strong was given preferential treatment when she settled in China. Earlier on, Strong had treated Lee as her own son, and now Lee was reborn, again gaining the trust of the party, and participated in the translation of the English version of Mao's selected works. There were several things that Lee Dunbai felt most honoured about. Mao invited him and his wife, together with a group of foreign experts, to Mao's residence to celebrate Mao's 80th birthday. In 1966, the Cultural Revolution broke out. On October 1st, National Day celebration, Mao signed his signature on Lee Dunbai's Red Book on Tiananmen. By then, Lee Dunbai seemed to have reached his peak in his revolutionary career, and could touch the sky, the limelight unparalleled. According to his own words, it was the golden decade of his life. During the Cultural Revolution, Lee became a rebel leader in the Broadcasting Bureau, gave speeches in Tiananmen Square, and even became the head of a 3-person leadership group in the Broadcasting Bureau. However, unfortunately for him, he still recalled the old saying, "Climb high, fall hard." On February 21, 1968, Lee Dunbai was arrested again and put in Qincheng Prison, where he became an American intelligence agent again. The party said that he assigned Wang Guangmei to be a spy for the CIA, and then later Wang Guangmei trained Liu Shaoqi, so on and so forth. Later on, he was officially accused of being involved in the counter-revolutionary group of Wang Li, Guangfeng, and Qi Benyu. His arrest warrant was co-signed by the Premier Zhou Enlai and 13 high-ranking leaders of the CCP Central Committee. No wonder he was made such an easy target for scapegoats. Why were you so radical in the early days of the Cultural Revolution? Did it feel good to grab power and become the leader of a rebellion in the Broadcasting Bureau? However, Lee Dunbai himself believed that his misfortune was because he inadvertently offended Mao's wife Jiang Qing. In fact, he wholeheartedly supported the practice of mass democracy in the Cultural Revolution, and believed that Jiang Qing is the true representative of the revolutionary drive. So he really had no idea what was going on. This time, imprisonment was nearly a decade long. It was a miracle that Lee Dunbai did not lose his mind at this time. He benefited from his past experiences, no longer holding the part-test fantasy, believing one day he would get out of prison, making a living day worthy mentality. However, during his second imprisonment, Lee still suffered panic attacks from time to time. It is dramatic that, in his final year of Qincheng Prison, Jiang Qing herself became an inmate, and her cell was just on the other side of the hallway from Lee's. After listening to Mrs. Mao's loud complaints, he knew it was getting closer to his day out of prison. Finally, on November 19, 1977, Lee Dunbai was released from Qincheng Prison. But it was not until 5 years later that the CCP's Ministry of Public Security issued a document rehabilitating his wrongful conviction as an American intelligence agent and active counter-revolutionary activity. Lee Dunbai returned to work for Xinhua News Agency and found that the socialism he was once defending was gone. People began to look at money, and the issue of socialism and capitalism was no longer discussed in newspapers. It was hard for his leftist mentality to turn around all at once. His complaints and dissatisfaction towards Deng Xiaoping's policies became so serious that he decided to return to the United States. At the time, Lee was 6 months short of being 60 years old, and had sacrificed the most and best part of his life to the CCP. Years after returning to the US, Lee Dunbai admitted that Deng Xiaoping was right in general. In 1981, Mike Wallace visited China. Wallace was a well-known American television interviewer and reporter who was best known for his work on the TV news program 60 Minutes. Li was his translator to help Wallace understand the Communist Party and the Chinese people. Wallace, on the other hand, used his influence and connections in the United States to help Li re-establish himself when he came back to the US. Later, Li formed a consultation firm in the US and established relations with the American VIPs such as President Clinton, Vice President Gore, and old communist friend Kissinger. His vision was clear. That was to help the CCP push forward its economy. When the CCP high-rank figures, such as Wang Jun and Li Xianyan, visited the US, Li Dunbai presented the welcoming ceremony and even accompanied them personally. He also brokered a deal for Wallace to interview Deng Xiaoping. Li Dunbai had 4 children, 1 son and 3 daughters. His son Li Xiaoming wrote in his book, "My Father's Spy Influence on My Life," how he was rehabilitated through a labor camp with his mother when he was only 5, how he grew up under the shadow of his father was an American spy ever since he could remember. When he and his mother lived in Hernan's re-education camp, making bricks ironed a deep memory in Xiaoming's mind. The brick kiln was built on a small dirt slope, and some people carried bricks on their backs while others pushed bricks with a wheelbarrow. My mother had to carry 40 bricks at a time, and I helped the others push a wheelbarrow. When he reached the age for elementary school, Xiaoming was sent to raise pigs. Every morning at 5 a.m., he would go to the canteen and carry the leftovers from the previous day in a bucket to the pig pen to feed the pigs. Because of his father, Xiaoming was rejected by children of his own age. Even in the labor camp, others did not want to be in the same boat as Li Xiaoming. In 1973, Xiaoming left the labor camp in Hernan and returned to Beijing. His mother stayed behind. Xiaoming entered 1st grade in Yumin Elementary School, where his grandmother took care of him and his 3 sisters. They lived in a cramped dormitory at the Broadcasting Bureau. In his years in elementary school, he was asked to leave the classroom whenever Mao's speech was broadcast on the public announcement system. The reason? He was not qualified to listen to Chairman Mao's speech, so no matter what the weather was like in spring, summer, autumn, or winter, Xiaoming would always appear in the playground. He stood there alone, not angry and not leaving. Xiaoming was so used to this injustice that he did not even fight back when other children bullied him. At that time, he especially hated the fact that half of his breed was American. Xiaoming's first awareness of his father was from other children. An American spy, arrested dead or alive, I don't know. After Li Dunbai was released from prison, the family's living conditions improved significantly. The family moved into 3 apartments in the Beijing Friendship Hotel. Mum and Dad lived in one set, my grandma and I lived in the second one, and my sisters lived in the third. It was then that Xiaoming, the youngest of the siblings, began to hear from his sisters how privileged the family's life used to be. Li Xiaoming went to the US to finish his high school at the age of 15. He studied filmmaking in college and worked in advertising photography after graduation. In his eyes, his father was more communism than the Communist Party. According to old Chinese people, he is possessed by an evil spell. Well, that is the story of Li Dunbai. In May 2012, a documentary film about Li's experiences in China, The Revolutionary, was released in the United States. It attracted many China-focused viewers. The end of the film seems to suggest that Li regretted his initial choice. However, history takes its own course. Li Dunbai passed away in August 2019, at the age of 98. He was described by the American left-wing media as a communist revolutionary advisor and political prisoner, a CCP propagandist, a loyal aide to Mao and Zhou Enlai, an advisor to Western capitalists who went to the Chinese market to make money and amassed a large fortune. He was an American soldier and linguist. We believe that Li Dunbai eventually left the CCP and returned home, from a proletarian to communist, and then made money to be a capitalist accessory. There must be some unspoken ideological development. He was not stupid, but his mind was occupied by Marxism. If he could have read the 9 commentaries on the Communist Party during his lifetime, and fully understood the deep suffering brought by the Communist Party to the Chinese people, he might have regretted it. That's all for this episode. Please like and subscribe to our channel and share with your friends. See you next time.